Hey y'all. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played in the sixth and final round of my tournament. Technically seventh, but we're not counting one game, so it's sixth. And currently this tournament has been the worst tournament of my life. I have 1 point out of 5 currently, which is not good. And I forgot to put on the names. We're going to do a live edit here very, very quick. Give me 1 second. And there we go. Right there in the reading. Boom. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, basically my opponent is a decent bit stronger than I am, and I am having to beat him. This is the last round. The time control is 90 minutes for each side with 30 seconds each. 30 seconds bonus time per move. And we're just going to get into it. So my opponent starts the game off with e4, and I play c6, entering the Caro-Kann defense, a defense that I have played I've played a lot, but I've been trying to branch out into different openings, such as the Sicilian recently, and yeah, it's going to be retired soon, but for now I'm still going to play in tournaments. My opponent goes d4, and I play the move d5, and my opponent goes with the advanced variation, where I play the move bishop to f5. Very, very reasonable stuff. My opponent thinks for a little bit, and decides to play the tall variation with h4. And if you've seen the other recaps, you'll know that I do not want to play this variation based on how I played in round 2, where we went into a line where I lost pretty easily after h6, g4, here. This has all been played a million times before. E6, queen d6, takes. The theory still goes on here, f4, knight f6, and my theory ended here. My opponent's theory didn't with knight f3, and I ended up losing this game very, very promptly because I simply didn't know the theory. Basically, it's a pawn sack, but it's very, very scary if I'm taking this pawn. And so I decided not to play it this time, and I thought for a couple minutes, for like 1 or 2 minutes, and I ended up playing the move h5. And the reason why I thought so long of this is because I don't know the theory for h5. I don't know the theory for h5. The reason why I played h5 is because I think, okay, I have to do something, and I don't want to lose again. I don't want to lose again in this stupid h6 line. So yeah, and I'm already on my own on move 4. My opponent goes bishop d3. I don't take too much time here. I know that the good moves in this line are bishop takes d3. I know that this is like a common idea in these tall variations. So bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and I simply play the move e6, which I thought was very, very natural. Common ideas are like, okay, I need to get these pieces out. So I'm going to get the bishop out by playing c5 in some line. Maybe I'm going to get the knight out by going either knight a6 or knight e7 to try and go to this f5 square. That's kind of where my knight wants to go. And this knight, it's not going to be that hard to get on. I get here, I go c5, maybe go c5 first and knight c6. It's going to be pretty easy. And the common ideas, this is a big weakness, and maybe I'm going to have some attack on the king since I have this h5 move. This is actually an idea, as crazy as it might seem. Of course, not right now, since the bishop will defend. But my opponent decides to go knight f3. A very reasonable move, I think, for a little bit. I decide to keep it normal. I'm not trying to show my opponent that I don't have theory in this line. So I'm trying to keep it very, very natural. And I'm like, okay, you know what's probably the best move here? Knight d7. We're going to play knight d7. Not the best move, but I thought it was very reasonable, right? I'm going to play for c5 in some lines, and in all likelihood, probably black is doing fine. That was what I was thinking. My opponent castles. And now, if I really want to go with this plan, I can go c5. But I thought about it, and I thought this didn't really make that much sense. Even the move c4 here, which I thought was very, very interesting. And my king is really, really weak. My king isn't ever going to be able to castle queenside anymore, and kingside castling isn't really a good idea since this pawn is already advanced, and he can probably start some major attack on me very, very quickly. So I thought about c5, but I decided not to play it, and I decided, okay, you know what I want to do? I want to get my bishop to this square to attack this. I want to get my knight to this square to get over there. I could play knight e7, but the reason why I didn't play knight e7 is this move bishop g5 And I thought that I was in some trouble. I thought that there was like some problem here with bishop g5, since this is pinned, and if I move my queen, probably have to move my queen. Computer says to a5. But I just couldn't believe this. I'm like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing any of that? I'm gonna get to the same place anyway. Let's go knight h6, which I thought was very, very reasonable. And I'm still going to f5. And now my idea is, okay, if you take my knight, I'm going to take back with the rook, and maybe you've actually like improved my position, because now there might be some attack over here. You've castled very quickly. My king is not castled yet. I'm probably going to castle queenside now, and there is some attacking possibilities against the white king, really. Maybe even f4 ideas here. And I thought that black was doing quite well. My opponent decides not to do that, and instead plays the move bishop to g5, which I was looking at, but now, since I haven't put my knight on that square, it's not pinned, and I simply play bishop e7, saying, okay, now if you trade with me, my queen gets into a better position, and I'm one step closer to castling, plus your pawn is weak, plus this, plus even this anyway, and I just kind of just attack you, and I thought, okay, I'm doing very, very well. My opponent goes knight bd2, pretty good move. The idea is that he wants to play c4 since my king is still in the center. Always very, very reasonable. I think for a little bit here, but honestly, I already had my move planned out. I wanted to take on g5, and I had some ideas. After knight g5, I'm going to go knight f5. After hg5, I'm going to go knight f5, but I thought that my position was even better there. In fact, they're both practically speaking the same. But my opponent decides to go with knight g5. Very reasonable. I go knight f5 very, very quickly. I was very, very confident this game, which was cool. I don't think I thought for longer than like 5 minutes in any of these like decisions, which is really, really nice, because a lot of the time I overthink things, and it was cool to just kind of lay back and just play the game. But yeah, there are some interesting ideas here. Even knight f8, knight here going after this pawn. Like, they're sacrificing stuff. My opponent has to play g3, but like even knight f8, like probably this move was bad here. Probably it's bad here, but in all honesty, like there are sacrifices on this pawn. Like I can take. The queen probably has to defend. I come back. Queen has to defend the knight. Of course, the knight would be hanging, and then I mean like the pawn goes, and the king's under file, and the h file is open. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting, right? But of course, I didn't play knight f8. I instead think for a little bit here. Really, I was thinking about two things. Either I play queen e7 or queen b6. That was really the only thing I was thinking about. Queen b6 I thought was kind of interesting because, okay, first of all, I'm attacking two pawns. But I decided against queen b6. I thought even just the move c3 and like there wasn't anything. And I can't really long castle because then this pawn hangs with a fork of my rooks. And I can't do that, obviously. So I ended up discarding queen b6, although it is the best move. Because it kind of stops white's plan, and then I can go c5 myself. And I can start trying to break everything open. But even here, I mean, it's fine. I don't know. It's okay. But I played the wrong move. I instead played queen e7, which, in all honesty, looks like a pretty decent move, right? I'm just putting my queen on a better square. I'm defending f7. I'm even more defending on f7, and I'm going to long castle. Yeah, that's basically my idea. I'm going to long castle. And after the move, c4, which is a pretty decent move, I think, for a while here. And I realized a couple of things. I think I played the best move here. In all honesty, I don't care what the computer says. I think I played the best move here. I was thinking for a while about what this pawn was really doing. If the pawn is able to go forward, if the pawn is able to move forward, then my knight gets kind of shut out permanently, and my opponent has this really, really nice square on d6, really deep into my position. So I didn't want to do that. And I was thinking about it also, even if the pawn takes, then I'm gonna open up my king by like doing this, and there's like some tactics of like rook fe1. If the pawn takes this way, open it like this way. Okay, now the rook gets this file. I'm not gonna be able to castle that way, and I still can't castle this way because this knight is targeting this queen is here. There's a lot of problems here. So I thought that the only reasonable logical move was to take on c4. And I was like, you know what? This is the only move that I can play. This is the only move that I can play. Everything else doesn't work. And c4, taking on c4 is a very, very counterintuitive move because it loses control of the center. But what it does do is it makes this into a permanent weakness for white. This is a problem. This pawn is a problem. And I'm going to exploit that forever. I take c4. I don't think very hard. I play knight b6. If you take, I'm doing quite well because now my rook gets open. I can probably even come here. I don't care that my king can't castle now because, one, it still can, but probably it's not going to. Two, I can probably castle kingside now because now this pawn is just the target, and I'm probably just going to win it and probably win the game. Instead of that, my opponent goes back to e3, and here I found a very, very nice idea. And the very, very nice idea, and this is my plan all the while taking on c4. I saw this line where he comes back to e3 and targets my knight. I had a very, very nice idea here. And it's not like to go backwards. Also, obviously, he's threatening the pawn. Like, he's gonna win a pawn if that happens. So I had a good idea, and this idea was g6. And now my idea is that if he takes, I'm going to take back with the g pawn, and now this file becomes an issue. That's a problem now. He has to deal with that, and he's going to have some problems with his king. My knight might come over here. Some lines, f5 is an idea, and black is better, in my opinion. Black is better. My opponent goes knight e4. Very reasonable move. Trying to come into f6 with check. Don't want that. Can't really come to d6 right now because the knight defends, but his main idea is to take, and then knight d6 with check, and then I can't castle anymore, which would have been a problem. But I think for a little bit, I simply play long castles. That was the best move. Actually, I have a very nice move. I have this move, king f8. Don't even understand it. I'm not going to go into it. Long castles. My opponent knows what he's doing. He takes on f5. I take back with the g-pawn, my whole plan, and he gives me this check on d6. Of course, I consider this move. I consider rook d6. Of course I consider rook d6. That's not something that you don't consider, rook d6. And the idea is that after pawn takes, actually it's black playing here. Like, black's not going to win anything immediately, which is what I was looking for, and that's why I discarded the line. Black's not going to win anything immediately, but they have the knight. This pawn is always a weakness. These rooks aren't actually very good because my pawns are very, very strong at deflecting them. And in all honesty, black is probably playing here. And I saw that. I wanted to do that, but of course I need to play the best moves. I can't just sack a rook for content or whatever. I'm not that big of a channel yet. And I quickly played the move king b8. Pretty reasonable move. The idea is I want to get the knight out. I want to play knight c8. Go for something like that. Cool idea. One other thing I calculated. No, that's later. My opponent goes queen e3, and I am completely winning the game. Completely winning. There's nothing here. Just knight d5. I don't know why I didn't play this move. I'm actually really annoyed that I didn't play this move. It's a very, very reasonable move. I'm simply going to win the game here. In like no time, I'm going to win the game. My opponent probably has to go like queen g5 or something, and then I have like moves like f6, which is cool, and then queen g6. I can't like directly play this because of queen c f7, which is a really, really nice resource. But what I can do instead is like rook df8, and then I'm gonna like slowly prepare to like try and trap this queen. Which is very interesting. Obviously, you can't take this because the knight hangs, but yeah, it's a very, very interesting plan. And queen e3 was a very, very bad move. I have other moves here too. Simply putting a rook on the g file is a good idea here. Just trying to go up here. Maybe I want to double. Maybe I want to win the game right now. Like I like winning the game, but really, what I should have done is knight d5. I should have played knight d5. In fact, I'm annoyed that I didn't. And I instead played the move that I was really, really thinking about. And this is kind of the flaw with playing quickly, is that you don't really understand the full scope of the position. But I think on the long run, it's very, very helpful. I simply played the move knight to c8, which promptly gives up all my advantage. Not to the move that he played, which was a good move. To the engine, the move that he played gives up all his advantage, but it's still very, very complicated, and probably black is pushing. He played knight c4. Very, very good move. But I realized after I played knight c8, that I wasn't doing very well because of knight takes c8, which is insane, genuinely insane. At a higher depth, the computer just says this is completely equal. No chance for black, even the minus 0.1 might disagree. And the reason is, after king c8, you might say, well, what's now this is great and I'm doing good. But I thought that he had this move d5, and I was a little bit worried. But actually, I'm fine here. Actually, I'm completely fine here. I was a little bit worried about d5, but actually, he's just gonna play like rook a d1, and then he might play d5 after that, because the problem with d5 immediately is that I take with the rook, and this looks scary, like queen a7, but now I can just bring my other rook, and actually just black is winning. Black is gonna win this pawn. Black is gonna get in. It's winning for black, but I didn't play that. I didn't see that, so I was a little bit worried about knight c8. I probably would have taken back with the king, but even taking back with the rook is fine. Instead, my opponent goes knight c4. And I think for a little bit, but I already know what I'm going to play. I'm just going to bring my rook to the g file. And here, I thought I was winning. Here, I thought, you know what? Black is winning this position. Black is going to win this position any day of the week. I have a monster attack at his king. He has to play king h2. And I thought, you know what? I'm doing really, really, really well. I'm going to win this game. I'm going to win this game. And I was so prepared to win this game. This would be the first game that I win in this tournament. And it's funny that it happens in the last round, but I was so prepared to win this game. And now that I'm looking at the engine, it's just equal. It's just equal. It's insane that it's just equal. I think for a little bit, I played rook g4, which was very, very aggressive, simply attacking this pawn. But from a distance, basically I calculated this from this move. But from a distance, I didn't see that he had this move f4, which is very, very nice. And it stops a lot of my plan, because part of my plan is to play f4 myself and like just open him up like an oyster, really. And yeah, this move f4 kind of quelled my aggression, which was very, very nice for him. And I was thinking here, I was trying to find my win. I couldn't find my win. I knew I was winning. At least I really thought I was winning. And I got really, really frustrated because I thought I was just completely crushing him. But no. And I ended up just playing a random move that made sense to me. In fact, I have a couple moves that do really well here. Queen b4 is a very nice move. Simply attacking the knight, putting pressure on the pawn like this. And if something like queen c3, which makes the most sense to me, I can even just take on c3, takes, and like bring my rook around or something. No, knight b6. After this, now I sack, and I can play knight c4, and my knight is really, really good, and black is pushing. But instead of that, maybe I could have done that. Maybe I could play knight b6 immediately. That's the only way that black gets an advantage, is if they sack the rook. Instead, I just thought about it, and I played rook d5. Which makes sense. I'm trying to double up here in the future. But after queen c3, a very nice move, threatening a fork. I have to come back with my rook. I'm going backwards a lot here, and I don't really like going backwards. My opponent goes b4, and actually black is winning again. Black is winning for the umpteenth time in a row. And I mean, it's not a hard win to do. Play rook gd8, simply attacking this pawn, and I know I'm better. I know I'm much better here. I'm much, much better here. I don't know why I didn't go for the win here. I genuinely, if I could like talk to past me, or like knock some sense into my head or something, I would. I'm just really mad at myself for what happens next. My opponent goes rook a1. I attack the pawn. He can't defend it. I'm going to be up a pawn here. Then my opponent does something crazy. My opponent goes knight d6. Insane move. And the idea shows itself really clearly after I take it and win the pawn. My opponent goes queen f3, attacking my pawn. And I think here for a little bit. I'm trying to find what I can do. This is my original intention. This. And I don't know. Maybe I have like some win. I don't exactly, but I'm up a pawn here. I don't know why I didn't go for this. This is a forced line. Well, I'll tell you why I didn't go for this. It's really scary. This pawn is very, very scary. And the fact that he's going to get something over here, it just freaked me out. It really, really freaked me out. Like, this move doesn't work. Like, king h3. And the king starts going, like, really, really fast here. Now the only move is queen c4. And as you can see, my advantage just dies. But instead of like playing for a win, which I absolutely should have. By the way, the best move is queen b4. Very reasonable. I go rook h8. My opponent goes queen c3, and even here I can play for a win. I was talking this with my coach later, and he even had this cool idea, king c7. And this idea was to just walk all the way over to the king's side and just win like that, which is very, very funny. It absolutely works too, because white can't do anything. But yeah, instead of that, I got scared. I played this move rook d8, and I think you know how the game is gonna end. Queen df3, rook h8, queen c3. Rook g8. And that's 3-move repetition, and we made a draw. This was probably my least proud moment I've ever had in chess. I don't even... I'm really, really disappointed in myself. I'm really, really mad at myself. And now that the tournament is over, I can like reflect, and really the first half of the tournament was decided on the opening. I was getting out prepped every game, but that's not the end of the world. Second half of the tournament was honestly, the reason why I lost was mainly psychological. I didn't lose any games actually. I drew every single game. The reason why I did that was very, very psychological. I got really scared of losing. I got really, really scared of losing. And in two of the games that I played, I could have had an advantage. In my game yesterday, I absolutely could have played for a win. But I just made a draw. Why? Because I was scared. I was scared. I didn't want to lose. I really didn't want to lose. And I'm disappointed in myself. I really am. I'm disappointed in myself. But anyway, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. And if you did, remember to like, subscribe to all the normal things YouTubers tell you to do. And that's it. Good evening and good night.